So jumping into episode 2 of season 2 of Foundation, it's a lot more straightforward than the first episode because we've kind of gotten a lot of that preliminary catch-up stuff out of the way, and it's a little more linear this time. There still is some jumping around, weird stuff here and there, but for the most part, it's full steam ahead. Really good episode. Once again, stunning visuals, great directing, great writing, great pretty much everything. I don't really have any downsides. There was a confusion I have about one thing, which we'll get into. But if you're new here, I don't spoil things before the fold, so to speak. So, as always, this is not spoiler free. If you haven't watched the episode yet, make sure to walk away and come back. I will do a countdown, and then we're going to get in. So, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you never miss an update as we continue to review this and other shows like Star Trek Strange New Worlds and The Witcher and upcoming things like Ahsoka and all sorts of other stuff. So, um, this one is basically about trying to figure out how to rectify the rifts that um, she saw from episode 1 and kind of get them back on course. Now, Harry Prime is out of the Prime Radiant, and he has a confrontation with Gale on the ship. And did you even think about the fact that I may be conscious when you separated me from my body, and stuck me in here? And he's like, I was conscious the whole time. And so they have a bit of a brawl, but it does get, cut off because they've got to get the ship off the planet. And there's the basic understanding that in order for them to fix what she sees as potentially going wrong, is she has to figure out a way to project her mind into the future through her future self to see what's so grave, because that's what's affecting her is these flashes in memory. And when she does this, she ends up coming up against someone called the Mule, who also appears to be a telepath, um, like them, but he's seeing things from the other side of the equation, and he appears to be a force for evil. And in her vision of the future, um, she sees herself confronting him and all of the people around her dead, and he is able to see that she is a projection, that the one from the past or the one from the present essentially is projecting herself into the one in the future, and this character, the Mule, confronts her. And this is where it's been so long since I've read the books. I don't remember how much of this is from the book or not, and I think that's actually a blessing because I feel like this is way more. I feel like my viewing of Foundation so far has been much more simplified than reading the book was. Not that the books were bad, but the thing with Foundation is it takes place over so many thousands of years that it can sometimes be hard to keep track of all that. It's kind of like trying to read the Silmarillion, and when you're covering so much time and you have this constant changing cast of characters, it can feel overwhelming. So, in any case, that's going on with Gale and Harry. And then there's the other stuff with, him revealing to her that the second foundation was always meant to be formed in secret and hidden because the first foundation would need some guidance. Otherwise, it would become the next empire. And this becomes extremely evident that this is actually the case. There's this, and this is where I don't remember enough of season 1, but there's this planet that there are some missionaries on that planet. Those missionaries happen to be from Harry Seldon's Church of, I think it was a Church of the Enlightenment. I forget what they called it. But the prime cleric was like 10 years old when Harry stepped out of the vault. The other Harry, the digital copy for the vault, stepped out all those years ago, like 100 and what is it, 138 or 158 years ago. I don't remember the timelines now. Only he's now old, and they're off preaching on a planet trying to teach the savages, as they say. Apparently, this is a planet that used to be under the Empire, but was given its freedom, and in result slid backwards into barbarity and savagery, and the lightning man in the sky, and the fallacies of religion. And there's a great moment in here where, and this will be offensive to people who are of religion. Um, where the two clerics are on the planet, well, the cleric and his disciple, and they're discussing, what they do. The magic that they have essentially is just science and technology, but they use it to help wow the masses because they want to convert them to understanding the importance of the foundation and the importance of using math and science to, you know, get rid of genetic anomalies in your crops and to, control the weather on your planet and all these things that technology can, help the people benefit from. But they're so backwards in their need to have a faith structure that they can't see science. They see it as, someone trying to take away their gods. And so they get upset at this, and they essentially, one of the clerics ends up, they string them up on a post on top of a hill and pray to the lightning god to strike him down and prove that their god is more powerful than this science preacher. And lightning falls from the sky because they happen to live on a planet where there's lots of lightning strikes up high, and the local primitives have learned to that if you put something up high, lightning will strike it. But to them, that's the gods, right? So it's a really interesting foray into religion versus science in this episode in that particular arena. But then the clerics get called back because they get called back to Trantor, right? To not Trantor. What's the name of their planet? I forget. They get called back with a vault's opening, where Selden's going to come out. Now, there's a couple of binding themes here, and I didn't write the name down. I probably should go look it up while we're sitting here. But in Gail's vision of the future, the mule mentioned a name. And then at the end of the episode, when the warden is they've brought the cleric back and the vault's opening and Selden's not coming out of the vault and the warden is like, "Never fear, I will go into the vault and get your answers for you." And then he throws up his hands and he floats into the sky and he starts shouting the same name and then he disintegrates into 1,000 little bits. Obviously, that name is important. I think it's written across the spires, I believe in Harry's handwriting from the inside, and I don't remember what that name means. So it's if it's what it entails. But we obviously have this creature from the future, the mule, saying the same name, and this being some sort of a conjunction point for everybody. So all in all, that's the primary crux of this episode. Now we also have the ongoing relationship with um, dawn, day, and dusk. And that's breaking down significantly here because dawn and dusk are staying true to their genetic code, and day is breaking further and further away. He sees their lunches as pointless. He doesn't feel like he needs to be part of the unity. He wants this queen who's going to allow him to have his own progeny and get rid of cloning entirely and restart the natural order of things. Now she's this what is it, Dominion, I think is where she's from.
They're
What's
at
up,
this.
everybody? Quick commercial break here to give it a shout out to our guild champions, who are the highest tier memberships here on YouTube: Ancient Entity, Assassin Gamer 94, Bubbleoni Rising, Crazy's Relative, Mujin, and Remedy. Thanks so much for the highest tier membership. And thanks to all of the members who support the channel, because you keep me doing this full time. You too can become a supporter if you're new here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss an update. Join as a member. There's 3 different tiers. We do lots of special stuff, private polls, private videos. You get a shout out if you're the highest tier membership, but you can also do one-off donations in the form of super chats on any live stream or premiere you see, and of course super thanks on any upload or YouTube short. Whatever you can contribute, it's great. Keeps me on the air full time, keeps the cats fed, keeps the homestead running. Anyway, back to the video, everybody. They're at this dinner and she is not afraid to just say things, and she understands that there's definitely something going on here. The genetic code is off and everything else, and she manipulates that to convince Day to talk about and then show her the cloning facilities where all of the bodies are. And while they're down there, they're discussing, what would happen if she were to become queen. The progeny, the killing all the clones. How would that make Day feel? What if he was assassinated after the fact? Like all these things, and then it's just like a sort of like a battle of the minds at that point of her forcing him to admit that the empire is weakening and that he needs something to change, and she is that something. And she also has something to gain and lose. So it's a great back and forth, sort of a battle of the minds between these two. It remains to be seen how that's going to play out, but you're left with this sense that both of them understand that this union is dangerous and could have very unforeseen consequences and endings, but yet they both seem drawn to it at the same time. So, just like I said, overall, really good episode once again, much more linear. But that's because we got all that stuff out of the way in episode one, so we're kind of cruising ahead now, full speed. Um, I think that yeah, and another solid episode for me. I really enjoy this show. I'm glad that I don't remember all the things from the book because I feel like it's helping me get out of the way of myself. Because I know with Wheel of Time and Rings of Power, it's a little more challenging for me sometimes. Ultimately, I do try to get out of the way of myself when it comes to any sort of prejudgment I might have because of a more intimate remembrance of the source material. So it's kind of nice to be able to just watch this and be like, yeah, this is fun, and not be like, oh well, this was different in the book and that was different. I feel that gets because when you're watching shows like this and it's an adaptation of a big work, they're gonna have to cut some stuff, and so I'm pretty happy with where this ended up. Visually, again, there's nothing you can say bad about this show visually. I think it's working in a lot of different ways. So, looking forward to next week's episode. I need to know more. The digital copy needs to come out of the vault. We need to find out whose name was being cried out and why. Who's the mule? Let's look up some more on him and figure out more about him. And of course, it looks like at the end of this, Harry and Gail and I forget their daughter's name are heading to what I believe is going to be the location of the second foundation, which has been in hiding. So that's going to be interesting to see that reveal as we get deeper into this season. So, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. I'll see everybody next week. Thanks for tuning in.